Hello everybody, welcome to My Hero Academia Chapter 320 review. Now, I haven't been caught up on these reviews lately just because of how many breaks Weekly Shonen Jump has been through in the past 5 weeks. We've only gotten 3 chapters, and thus I haven't really felt like I need to make some reviews. But I'm going to catch up today, and starting here with Chapter 320. And this chapter, what happened last time was Class 1A came to try to stop Deku from rampaging around everywhere. And this chapter just starts off with Ida said, once he's got his mind on something, he refuses to stop. I know that well. And then Bakugo starts taunting Deku, saying, we heard you unlocked the 4th and 6th. Looks like you're drawn differently than the rest of us these days, you damn nerd. Something funny I find right there is how he just says drawn differently, because he literally says it like, you are drawn differently. Which, I guess, if you want to say that. But I just find that he sort of got a different composure than what the rest of the class has as of right now. And then Deku says, you all came for me. Thanks, but... And then he unleashes the 6th smokescreen quirk, ends quirk, and Bakugo screams, don't let him get away, a smokescreen! And then Ochako's like, that's the 6th power. And then Bakugo uses a landmine blast that pretty much makes all of the smoke blow away and making it so Deku is visible again. And Bakugo says, you don't want to chant, huh? Just go sneak off then. So now you're one of the all-powerful big shots, or just a bunch of NPCs to you. And then next thing you see is a herd of birds, or a lot of birds coming towards him. And Koda says, they said you couldn't pack to school. You hear that, Midoriya? The principal is ready to welcome you back. Got that? Stop running away. And Deku says sorry as he goes and sends the Black Whip out of his back to a building corner. And then Sero comes by and grabs onto the Black Whip and sort of whips Deku around. And something interesting here to think about is that means the Black Whip is a tangible object if Sero can manipulate it with his tape. And Sero then says, the Black Whip of yours is kind of freaky. No wonder people are scared. And then Deku thinks to how Sero helped him use the Black Whip whenever he was doing that training before the whole war started. And then Jiro comes in and uses a heartbeat wall on the, somewhere on a wall. And she says, hey Midoriya, I don't know if it'll matter for what it's worth. Remember when you helped me organize my notes for the school festival? You really helped me back then. It might not seem like much, but I appreciated that so much. Ojiro is the next page, and he says, Tornado Tail, dance. He says, remember that stuff back with Shinzo at the sports festival? I'll never forget how mad you got on my behalf. So how can I sit back when you're the only one fighting and running yourself ragged out there? And then Deku says, my presence is a danger to all of you. I can't let All For One take you all away from me. That's why I had to leave. As Deku looks very demonic, actually pulling apart Ojiro's tail so he can get free from the grip he had it on. As he also has some flashbacks back to when Aizawa got his leg cut off, Gran Torino just got smacked, and then Bakugo got stabbed in the Paranormal Liberation War, I guess. And then Tokugami comes in, grabs on Deku, and yells, thrust! Dark Shadow! And pretty much shoves him all the way into a building. And there, Sato goes and catches Jiro and Ojiro. And he yells, Midoriya, open your ears. You might have some special power, but we understand how you feel. We all feel the same way. Plus, there's that Koda said about school. You gotta hear us out. If not, I'm never letting you food dye for Aries candy apples again. And then Deku says, that's just fine. Aerie doesn't need me. It doesn't have to be me. And then all of a sudden, a slab of building material comes out of the ground as Yaoyorozu, or Momo, whatever you want to call her, pretty much straps him down in this thing and puts something on his head. And apparently it's some sleep sort of thing. And she says, "You should know that we intend to join in your efforts. We've been authorized to use our quirks to aid Endeavor and the other heroes. For this mission is to ensure your safety." And as Deku has the thing over his head, he then just sort of thrusts his head forward, and it breaks that shell there. And then Deku says, "Stop wasting effort on me," as he then pulls with all his might to break all these things. And he says, "Just get away from me." And then Kaminari just comes over, throws his arm around Deku and says, "Not a chance, pal. Midoriya, we get that one for all is really important, but you got something even more important in your life. Me and you, we ain't got a ton in common, but you're still a friend. Even if we gotta force this friendship down your throat." And then, oh gosh, what's his name? There's too many characters in Class 1A. Shoji. Shoji comes in and he holds out his arms, and he's like, "This is sling tape Yaoyorozu made for my tentacles." And yeah, so he pretty much has this tape wrapped around his tentacles, and he sort of sends them out and wraps them around Deku, right? And then he also keeps us saying, "A lineup like this might even give All Might a scare." That's what you said during the attack on our training camp. And then, Uzu's face, Tokuyami comes in and he says, "Dark Shadow, indulge in the darkness. Ragnarok womb." And he pretty much goes in and around and pretty much shields this sort of cocoon that Shoji made with his tentacles, just sort of wraps it all around their Dark Shadow, sort of making that cocoon like I said. And he says, "Repurposing Dark Shadow's offense in service of defense was a concept birthed by you, Midoriya," going back to the sports festival. And Shoji then says, "Do you see us as mere victims who need protecting coddling?" And Kaminari says, "And don't you miss bathing? You need a bath real bad, Midoriya." So, I mean, yeah, he's been on the run, just fighting and villains and all of that for a long time now. Deku thinks, "Please, just stop," as he just soars out of this building with all of his strength, breaking through all of it. And Tokuyami says he pried apart the bindings of Ragnarok. And while Deku's going, "Stop already. I get it. I know. You're all just worried about me. You're worried deep down in your hearts. I know that for a fact because there's no real danger or malice here. Danger sense would have alerted me otherwise, but you guys aren't setting it off at all. So please, get away from me. I'm begging you. I mean it. I'm fine." And then Todoroki just comes up, makes a big ice wall. It's called the heaven-piercing ice wall, and Deku just collides into it. And Todoroki comes out and says, "What a look you have on your face. Is this responsibility so much that you can't even let yourself cry? Seems like a burden you should share with the rest of us." As his hair sort of billowing out in the wind, going up and to the side. And then Tsuyu's on a wall, sort of looking at Deku, and she says, "Not so fast. I'm not weeping and moping around anymore, because you matter to me. You're my friend, and when we're scared, we tremble together. When times are tough, we cry together. So, if you're dead set on being some comic book superhero, then Class 1A won't let you live that fantasy alone." And that's chapter 320. So, my thoughts on the end of this chapter is, the chapter does what it's supposed to do well, showing off all of the not-so-major characters in Class 1A that don't have, like, the biggest ties to Deku, being Koda, Sero, Jiro, Ojiro, Tokoyami, Sato, Yaoyorozu, Kaminari, Shoji. And it does that well to an extent, and sort of ending it off there on Tsuyu. And Todoroki and the few things that Bako and Ida did in the beginning. Or he didn't do anything in the chapter, you just got a picture of his face. But this chapter does what it's meant to do extremely well. But this isn't sort of the chapter I was expecting whenever it came out. I mean, I very much enjoy this chapter. It is a great chapter, and I enjoy what it did. Having all these characters sort of hiking back to moments to why Deku's a friend, why he matters to them, and pretty much going and finding a way to sort of deal with that and seeing if they can't bring him back on their own, which they obviously can't. But in the end, I enjoyed this chapter, and I hope you guys did too. And that's all my thoughts on this chapter. So this is Glowplasma231.